This is my musical introduction to studying the book of James.
Hey everybody, we made it to the end of James and I'm out of coffee, so I'm just gonna have to wing this one totally uncaffeinated. But if you've made it this far, thank you so much. I am gonna try to do some sort of Q&A, some sort of live wrap up for anyone who has watched along for this series, just to try to have a little bit more of a two-way conversation about this content. But this has been really beneficial for me and for our little Beacon family. I hope it's been beneficial to you. But today we're going to wrap up the final lesson in having a real world faith, is recognizing that some people, if we're going to all try to take this word and hear from God and go forward, sometimes we're going to get it right and sometimes we're going to get it wrong. And part of the body of Christ's function is those of us who are about to wander off the wrong direction is to lovingly and gently bring us back in and restore us into the fold. Not to condemn or beat us over the head or excommunicate and put a wall up, but to gently restore. Let's hear what the text says. James chapter 5 verses 19 reads, "My brothers and sisters, if any among you strays from the truth, and someone turns him back, let that person know that whoever turns a sinner from the error of his way will save his soul from death and cover a multitude of sins." So there's a couple of fundamental things we have to get here. Number one, if any among you strays from the truth, there is an objective, singular truth. The truth. There is a truth to be turned from. It's not, I have my version of this truth and you have your version of this truth, and what's true for you isn't necessarily true for me. There is a singular truth. We need to swallow that. It's a difficult pill to swallow because we don't always agree on what the truth is. But just because we don't agree on it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So, there is truth. Secondly, there are some among the church who will be in truth and who will leave truth. And I don't think that they will know that they're leaving truth, right? No one thinks they're the villain of the story. Every villain in history has thought that they were the hero, right? Darth Vader and the Emperor thought they were bringing peace and order to the galaxy, right? That's a noble goal. Bring peace and order to the galaxy. Sweet. How are you doing it? Tyrannical rule. Okay, well, no bueno. But in their, every villain thinks they are pursuing the noble goal. Similarly, I'm sure that those in the church world, again, it's saying those, if any, among you. So this is within the boundaries of Christendom, if you will. Someone sees something and says, that looks true, that looks right, that looks good. They're going to head toward that thing. They're not going to say, I'd like to worship Satan now. Let me change my theology. No, that's not how it's going to work. But just like Eve with the fruit, it is not about choosing to be evil. It is about seeing something, desiring it, and taking what God has said not to take. The truth of the matter was that God was going to that they were going to die. It said, you'll surely die. Well, God brought it to fruition. Because the devil said, no, it's good, it's desirable, it's wonderful. You want to be like God. You want to know the difference between truth and between good and bad. And sure enough, we see the results of the fall hereafter. But that is as a result of them seeing and desiring something that was contrary to what God had said. And humans are still likely to do that with our theology and with interacting with Christian brothers and sisters. Now, I want to say this carefully. A couple of videos ago about condemning others, I went in pretty hard and said, hey, it's not our job to be the judge. It is our job to be a citizen. Now, I want to nuance that by saying that if a citizen sees another citizen about to rob a bank, it is not their job to be the judge and to sentence that person, but it is somewhat their civic duty to, if they can, without losing their own life, to intervene and to say this is not acceptable, to say you should not be breaking the law. right? To establish yourself as the righteous judge of all, and to, you dirty theologians, you should not, or you dirty Pentecostals, you believe X and Y and Z, and you're leading a whole generation of people astray. It's actually quite a lot of people that believe that. Cool, man. If they're trying to become the judge and say you should be banished and excommunicated because of, I've got a problem. If they're trying to be brothers and sisters who genuinely love and care about us, poor Pentecostal believers, and genuinely want to turn us back to truth, then they're going to be open to a gentle restorative dialogue. But that's not often what happens. So just note the stakes are high, and the value of doing this is good. Coming to a brother and say, I think you've left the truth. What are you doing for that brother or sister when you bring them back to the truth? You are saving his soul from death and covering a multitude of sins. The stakes couldn't be higher. We need to help maintain each other in the Lord. And all of us, as we study these pages, these pages are rich and complex and sometimes difficult to truly decipher the appropriate context and applications from these. And all of us on our own, with our sinful, set of eyes, we can make all kinds of mistakes. And I just want to encourage you. This does not say whoever can smite a sinner because he leaves truth will save his life. It says whoever turns a sinner from the error of his ways. It's like the image is like gently guiding a U-turn, right? You can't just throw a lasso and yank and pull them back. You have to gently turn that person from where they are headed, which is probably not of God, and say, you know what? If you just hold that wheel about 30 degrees left, eventually you're going to come back around and end up back in safe harbor, right? We don't want people to get lost out in the dangerous sea of, bad biblical exegesis and to end up in a place where they are totally floundering in untruth. We want to just gently turn them back. And usually the easiest way to turn someone around is to go stand next to them and to just gently kind of lean, just kind of, like when you're walking your dog, right? This is kind of derogatory if you think about it that way, but rather than just yanking them and changing direction, sometimes it's easier to just kind of take a nice gentle loop, and then on the leash, they'll just kind of come right back around with you, right? I want to encourage you today that if you see a brother or sister wrestling with and headed toward untruth, don't yank on them, don't excommunicate them, don't say, well, they are out to lunch, I can't even associate with them anymore because they're so far out. Go up next to them, get shoulder to shoulder with them, put your arm around them, and just gently say, hey, this direction you're going, it leads here, which is not a good place. Why don't you come with me and let's just together take this journey of slowly saying, well, if that's not good, maybe let's just keep turning a little further away from that. And I think that's going to be a much more effective way to bring brothers and sisters together than to just start a new church or start a new denomination. I mean, let's just own up to it, y'all. The fact that we have 10,000 denominations today is, I think, a direct result of the fact that we have been unable to come alongside each other and say, well, I believe this and you believe that, so I'm right, you're wrong, I need to cut you off, we're just gonna go start our own thing because you all are hopeless and gonna burn. And it just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. If we're going to have a faith that genuinely transforms the world, we can't be, lassoing people and just, cutting people out and being disconnected and just chopping people out of the body of Christ because we somewhat disagree with them. That's just not how it's going to work. We need to be lovingly united with people. If someone is headed the wrong way, just gently turn them back. Like a horse has a little bit in their mouth, just a little tug on the reins. And if they don't come along, God's got to ultimately deal with them. but let's try to keep steering people toward truth in a way that is restorative and in a way that is relational. That's all I've got to say. That's all I've got to say about that. He said after putting out 35 videos with hours of content. Yeah, so I just had that one brief thing to say about the entire book of James hours later. So thank you guys. I love you guys. Restore your brothers and sisters gently today. And I can't wait to talk to you in our final wrap-up video, whatever that looks like.